In this video, I wanted to give everybody a clearer snapshot of what my Emerald Amber Quest Turbo deck was like. So here you can see a clean, easy to read picture. I'm not going to break down the deck too much in detail right now. It's kind of straightforward, but also there's some unique things that you want to really make sure you pay attention to, but those are better explained during actual gameplay. So if you're looking for a decent deck list, I actually have not lost with this deck yet, I don't think, and I've played 6 matches, so we'll look at maybe just 1 or 2 depending on how long this video gets. But I played against the Amber Steel deck that was like a really good deck, I guess. It got second at some major event, and also a mirror match where I went second and still won. So the deck is definitely resilient. We'll take a look at some of those matches now, but I really found this deck to be anti-meta to a certain extent because it really counters that Ruby Amethyst control. But let's go ahead and take a look at the matches, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, so I'm just going to record the full match here because there's a couple of things that I do want to talk about with this deck. It does feel like you will be losing the battle long term when you play this deck, but that's normal, especially if you play other decks or are more of a control oriented player, because you don't actually play for advantage. You play for just basically trying to flood the board as quickly as possible. And that being said, you do struggle a lot against steel and potentially red if you let them get to mid and late game because of their board wiping abilities with things like grab your swords and be prepared. Grab your swords is 5, dealing 2 damage to all your characters, which can wipe out your board, and be prepared is just a board wipe for everything at 7 ink. So you can see here, to start things off, we start off with the Duke because we don't really have anything else. The opponent just starts with 1 ink. They don't have a 1 drop. We do have playable characters though, and this is what I mean. When you set up your hand, when you do your mulligan, you want to make sure that you have a lot of low costing characters. You'll naturally draw into their high costing ones over time, but even if you don't, it's not the end of the world because you do focus on those smaller high questing characters basically in order to win you the game. So the opponent reveals that they're on, I think, Amber Steel at this point, I think, or they only revealed steel cards. I don't actually remember, but they do play the removal spell. So this is where I was like, oh man, I'm in for a slugfest here, because basically their removal spells is what really beats my deck, because I need to keep my bodies on board, and if they just keep removing my monsters, I can't continue to lore. And then as soon as they get up to like 5, 6, 7 ink, they're going to start dropping boss monsters like Tinkerbell and stuff like that, which deal even more damage to my characters, and that's why that matchup is really bad for you. So in this instance, you can see the opponent is still on nothing, so I don't know what hand they ended up keeping here, or what they're really playing towards, but we're just going to continue inking and trying to put bodies on the board. So at this point, I'm focusing a little bit more on setting up things with more than 3 willpower or 3 toughness, because I want to be able to survive a grab your swords. The opponent does smash the cat, which is not great, but hey, they're not putting any monsters on board. So I mean, at this point, it is what it is, and we're just going to do our best to try and power through the removal spells. We do end up getting a Cusco, which can still be affected by grab your swords, because grab your swords doesn't choose or target. It just deals straight damage, but we do avoid things like smash and fire the cannons against it. So the opponent is inking their high costing characters, which are on the Amber side, and they eventually do play their first character in the Tinkerbell. And then, yeah, I guess they just have a bunch of removal spells in hand. So they do fire the cannons on the Duke there, which is fine. We draw a 3rd Cusco, and we're just loading up the board at this point with the Cuscos. So the opponent's on 4 cards, which, you know, isn't the best, because if they continue to ink, they're going to be in a really tough spot. So they end up crashing their Tinkerbell here and then playing a grab your swords to take care of one of the Cuscos. So my other Cusco has 2 damage on it, which means the Tinkerbell will be able to take it out next turn. But at this point, I'm like, you know, I'm just going to still quest with it. I'm going to drop Mad Hatter here because I'm like, I can use some draw power. The opponent is now got to consider how do they want to deal with this board, because we're threatening 5 lore. They play another grab your swords, and I'm like, bro, is this like 3 grab your swords and like 3 fire the cannons? Like what's going on here? So my Cusco gets eliminated, gets banished, and now my Mad Hatter gets -2 on it as well. And this is really strange. They play a Rapunzel. I guess they wanted to fire the cannons, and I should have seen this coming, but they have 1 card left in their hand, and I'm like, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they play the Rapunzel here, right? So I end up keeping my Rapunzel and just playing another Cusco, and like I said, I should have made this read. I should have realized that, oh, they're gonna go for the Whole New World. So I lose my Genie and my Rapunzel, which isn't great because that was going to be my closing, like my closeout potential for the game. And now we got 7 cards, but at least the opponent did have to spend 5 ink in order to play that, which puts them on, you know, you don't really have much to extend on this turn. You've already gone through, as you saw me check their graveyard, a number of your removal spells already, so I really doubt you have anything else that's really significant. So at this point, the Cusco will put me on 15 quests. It'll probably get taken out next turn, but if I can load up the board with enough quest power, I can likely win on the following turn, right? Because I'm putting you on, you don't have another set of fire cannons and grab your swords and everything to remove a number of small threats that I'm going to grab to the board. And the Whole New World, like when you face up against the steel deck here, like I don't know if, I guess it's not really a misplay by the opponent because they had to do that in order to refresh their hand because they had no extension play. If you do play against this deck and they Whole New World, that is your key to like, yeah, I can win the game because I can re-flood the board with a bunch of stuff. I don't have to worry about, you know, the red be prepared wiping my board out. If you have a grab your swords, I just put on things with 3 toughness and put you on. You have to spend multiple cards in order to out my things like the cat and the Mad Hatter and Cusco's and stuff like that. So I'm thinking about what to do here. I'm like, do I just drop a big body like the Moana and go for 3 quests next turn, or do I put off more small bodies? And I go for the small bodies route here. And you can see, like I'm checking their graveyard. They've put up a lot of removal already, and then they play the You've Forgotten Me, which is going to force me to discard 2 cards. And so I'm like, that's fine. Since I have 2 Simba, I'm going to get rid of that, and the Mother Knows Best, since at this point I'm just putting bodies on board. I don't need to try to control the game by bouncing your cards back to hand. They play the Aerial, which is really good. They can dig for a song, and undoubtedly they're looking for that Grab Your Swords because that is going to allow them to take out the Cusco and the Finn without sacrificing too much of their own characters. They're on 8 ink though now, and I'm like, are they going for another Whole New World at this point? But yeah, they're going to go ahead and quest with the Hey Hey, and then give the quest, or give the support to Cook, which will take out the Cusco, and then the Cusco takes out the Cook as well. And so at this point, yeah, they pass over to me, and I'm on 4 quests on board, this is going to put me at 19. And I have 6 available ink, going to go to 7, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and drop, most likely, is it the Moana and the Simba, right? Yeah, so I'm threatening 2, I probably shouldn't have put this in as bodyguard, but I'm threatening 2 bodies to win the game with. The opponent, even if they had Grab Your Swords, Fire the Cannons, they can't take out the Moana. They need, I don't even know what they could draw at this point to win the game, but you can see that even in our worst matchup, we are able to like just push through. And this is like, this normally this deck would be very good. Like look at the control you get with the Rapunzel, drawing 2, drawing 3, but we were still able to push through, and you know, the opponent is just trying to draw an out. I don't know what they could have, but this is the power of the deck. And when you play against Steel, which is your worst matchup, you have to play into the Whole New World. You have to assume that they're going to go for Whole New World, and that's going to refresh your hand and allow you to continue to put the pressure on. So that was an interesting game, but we're going to wrap up the video there. Thank you again for watching. If you made it this far, Quantum is out.